2 weeks ago was Earth Overshoot Day, and turns out a lot of you had some big things to say. As one of the most popular episodes I've posted so far, it's not difficult to understand why. A lot of you are craving widespread change, and many of you believe that starts at the top of hierarchies, such as one of you who said, and I quote, "What we as normal people can do makes a difference, but it's like picking pennies off the sidewalk while they're walking around with pockets full of hundreds." So, is this really true? Let's find out in today's episode. Welcome to Sustainable Sense, where we invest in climate defense. You're in for our hot take on all things money, markets, and the environment. Let's start with the numbers. According to Oxfam, a global nonprofit fighting poverty, inequality, and injustice, the richest 1% are responsible for more than double the carbon emissions of the poorest half of the planet combined. In 2019 alone, that top 1% produced 16% of all global carbon dioxide emissions, more than every single car and truck on Earth put together. And private jets, they emit 4 to 14 times more carbon dioxide per passenger than a commercial flight and end up 50 times more than trains. And the impact is huge when these are frequent, long-haul luxury trips from those who are used to such elaborate lifestyles. Then there are the mega yachts, the fleets of luxury cars, and the multiple mansions, a lifestyle with a carbon footprint so big, it might as well have its own postcode. And if you think this massive carbon impact simply just doesn't exist, you'd be quite wrong. By January 10th, 2025, just 10 days into the year, the richest 1% had already burned through their entire annual share of resources. Meanwhile, the bottom half of society won't use theirs up for nearly 3 years. So that's not just inequality, it's a staggering imbalance. And if you're wondering how that actually plays out, well, one private jet in a year emits about as much carbon dioxide as 177 cars. In 2023, jets outpolluted every commercial flight out of Heathrow combined. And as for those celebrities we all know, I'm sure I don't need to name all of them. Some of their private jets alone registered emissions 500 times higher than the global average for a person, which is not only unsustainable, but threatens global warming, which has domino effects on biomes, biodiversity, forced migrations, and the health and resources of populations that never contributed to the problem themselves. It's honestly pretty hard to swallow the pill that a single flight could cancel out an average person's efforts at living a cleaner and more sustainable life. It forced me to think bigger. Our individual choices matter, but they only go so far unless we also shine a spotlight on the real culprits. And yes, the solution has to involve systemic change. That could look like taxing luxury emissions, giving carbon credits, simply taxing carbon, setting limits or clean fuel mandates for private aviation, incorporating ESG metrics into company valuation, and requiring public reporting of the biggest carbon footprints so we can see who else is burning up the budget. But many of these ideas have had strong negative sentiment from fossil fuel lobbyists and governments who would like to rely on oil and other traditional fuel sources, despite the promise of emerging economic opportunities that renewable sources provide. Yet, our individual choices do matter, not because they can match the emissions of a single private jet, but because they can send a signal that the tides have turned. When millions of us make the same choices, someone is obviously going to take notice. More people join a movement of sustainable lifestyles, certain products fall out of demand while others rise, markets shift, clean lifestyles spread, advocates grow strength in number, environmental policies become safer, and the biggest polluters lose their excuse to do nothing because of the movement that's been created around them. I know a lot of you are thinking this whole idea is pretty absurd and very unlikely to happen. But think about how people are always told to get out there and vote because you never know, it could really make a difference. So if climate lobbyists, recyclers, trash pickers, composters, etc. keep doing what they're doing and inspiring others along the way to embrace adversity as opportunity and not fall into the cycle of climate doom, change is bound to happen eventually. Courage and conviction are two key factors to this premise. So, yes, cutting back on fast fashion or repairing instead of replacing won't necessarily solve climate change in isolation. But those actions help create the cultural and economic tipping points that make it possible to go after the real carbon culprits, with policies like luxury carbon taxes, stricter aviation fuel standards, and public accountability for the worst offenders. So, in other words, our role is twofold: live the change and demand the change. That way, we're not just shrinking our own footprint, but we're making it harder for the giants to keep stomping around unchecked. And one place where we can actually live the change and demand the change is right in our closets. But before we get there, it's time for some trivia. Which country is the world's largest producer of organic cotton? Is it A, India, B, Turkey, C, the United States, or D, Egypt? So stick around for a little bit and I'll reveal the answer at the end of this episode. Let's rewind for a little history lesson. Before the Industrial Revolution, clothes were made from local natural fibers like linen, wool, cotton, and silk, and dyed with plants, minerals, and even insects. Each garment was handmade, tailored, and built to last. People repaired, repurposed, and passed them down. And clothing was expensive relative to income, so most people owned just a handful of items. A capsule wardrobe wasn't just a lifestyle choice. It was just life. Then the Industrial Revolution swept in as the titans of capitalism took advantage of automation and assembly to grow their pockets further. Mechanized looms made textiles faster, synthetic dyes brought bright colors that didn't fade in the wash, and mass production made clothes cheaper. But along with the affordability came externalized pollution costs. Chemical dyes spilling into rivers, cotton monocultures damaging soil health and draining water supplies, and coal-fired factories pumping out soot. But here's what makes the call for sustainable clothing more urgent and more promising. When we turn to organic cotton, natural dyes, and plant-based materials, we're not just reducing dependency on toxic chemicals and fossil fuels. We're also supporting farming practices that conserve water, protect soil health, and help restore ecosystems damaged by decades of conventional production. We're also supporting one of the oldest economic sectors that build the basis of every country. Every organic cotton t-shirt or banana leaf bag is a small act of land stewardship. And here's something worth noting. Not only has fast fashion been wasteful at times, but it's also been deadly. In the mid-1800s, there was a craze for vivid, bright green fabric dye. It was the color to have. Think evening gowns, hats, wallpaper, all that lush emerald shimmer. The problem? The pigment was made with arsenic. As in, yes, the poison. Women wearing these dresses sometimes suffered skin sores, headaches, even organ damage. Factory workers making them? Even worse. And yet, the trend went on for years because style was valued over safety, and people didn't fully connect the dots between what we wear and our health. But today, we're not lining our skirts with arsenic, thankfully, but the same principle applies. The toxic chemicals used in synthetic dyes and fabric treatments can still harm workers, pollute water, and linger in the environment long after the dress is out of fashion. The only difference is that now, the poison isn't just on the fabric. It's in the supply chain, the rivers, and sometimes even in our own washing machines. By the mid-20th century, synthetics like polyester and nylon were everywhere. Cheap, wrinkle-free, and easy to wash, but made from petroleum and shedding microplastics with every spin cycle. And then came the fast fashion boom in the late 20th century. Global supply chains meant clothes could be designed in London, made in Bangladesh, and sold in New York in a matter of weeks. Prices dropped, trends sped up, and quality took a long lunch break and never came back. Garments were now designed to last a season, maybe 2 washes, before falling apart or going out of style. But here's where it gets interesting. Solutions are popping up, and they're not just for big companies. Bioplastics made from starch, algae, or food waste are replacing petroleum-based fabrics. And yes, you can make a small batch at home with cornstarch, glycerin, vinegar, and a bit of heat, your very own mini lab project. Let me know if any of you guys want to see me recreate these own bioplastics from my own home. Plant leather is here too. Pineapple's leaves turned into Pinatex, mushroom mycelium grown into durable sheets, cactus leather that's strong and long-lasting. No cows, no PVCs, and no guilt. And natural dyes are also making a comeback. You can get a gentle pink from avocado pits, a bold yellow from turmeric, a warm orange from onion skins, and a rich blue from indigo. Half the scraps in your kitchen could probably double as a color palette. And slow fashion is also on the rise. That means buying fewer but better quality items, repairing them when they tear, and reselling or swapping instead of tossing them. Financially, it's a win too. One good jacket that lasts a decade will cost you less over time than buying 5 cheap ones that fall apart. Plus, high-quality pieces often have resale value. Sustainable fashion offers another benefit here too. Ethical progress. Many sustainable clothing brands commit to fair wages and safe working conditions, helping protect the people who make our clothes, who are often most vulnerable in fast fashion supply chains. When we choose these options, we support not only a cleaner planet, but a more just world. We understand that not everyone can afford shopping from stores that don't engage in fast fashion and only produce with naturally sourced materials, but it is very possible for most of us to go thrift shopping or shop secondhand to keep the materials that we already have within the cycle. And remember, investing in durable, well-made clothing reduces the massive wave of textile waste ending up in the landfills and sends a signal to the market and manufacturers to break the throwaway cycle. So yes, billionaires need to ground the jets and dock the yachts. And yes, that will require some government involvement. But we can still embrace clothes that don't cost the earth. Every time you buy quality over quantity, repair instead of replace, or try a natural dye project, you're voting for a different kind of fashion industry. And don't forget, even small choices matter. Supporting brands that are transparent about their supply chains and carbon footprints sends a message to the rest of the industry that we demand accountability. When thousands take these steps, we shape what gets made, what gets funded, and ultimately, what policies get pushed forward. And speaking of votes, time to cast yours in the trivia. So again, the trivia question is, which country is the world's largest producer of organic cotton? Is it A, India, B, Turkey, C, the United States, or D, Egypt? Well, the answer is A, India. India is the world's largest producer of organic cotton, growing more than half of the global supply. Proof that sustainable agriculture can scale and still makes a serious fashion statement. Remember that listener's comment I mentioned at the beginning of the episode about picking pennies? Here's the thing. The pennies are worth a lot more than they seem. Every sustainable choice we make, whether it's swapping a t-shirt instead of buying a new one or repairing a favorite jacket, is another tiny weight on the scale, even though it may be very tiny. The rich may have hundreds in their pockets, but we've got numbers on our side. Because remember, we're part of that 99%. And as they say, there's strength in numbers. And together, those numbers can tip the balance. Remember, every small step we take towards sustainability makes a difference. If this episode got you thinking, share it with a friend or maybe challenge them to dye their clothes with an avocado pit. So be sure to subscribe for more insights into the sustainable side of economic development. You can find us on LinkedIn and Instagram at sustainablecentspodcast. If you have any questions or episode suggestions, you can email us at sustainablecentspodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's sustainablecentspodcast@gmail.com. Until next time. This is your host, signing off. And as always, invest your cents in climate defense.